let's start talking about all this fucked up family tree stuff, because there's just a lot going on that we have to unpack. So I think the best place to start with all of this mess is with our main characters. Technically, in this series, the one that seemed to get the most page time in this series, and that's Cordelia and James. This is just so frustrating because we start off this series finding out that there's someone that James is in love with. We don't really know who, but he likes a girl. And then we find out about Cordelia, and Cordelia is madly in love with James. Like, she loves him, and there is a deep, deep crush there that is happening. There's a ball that happens. James and Cordelia are on the dance floor. James sees Grace Blackthorne, abandons Cordelia on the dance floor, runs off to Grace. Matthew swoops in and saves Cordelia, and we thus get the beginnings of this really messed up love triangle. James and Cordelia both like each other. It's clear. We find moments where James talks about Cordelia. He has a cute nickname for her, Daisy, and we have the moment in the whispering room that there's this like beautiful, passionate, intense love between both of them. It seems so clear that they like each other. It seems like it's finally happening, and it all goes to hell. Quick side note, the whispering room scene, so beautifully written. Cassie has a way of writing romances that are just so alluring and romantic and passionate and beautiful to read that I just love, and I don't have any other author I know that writes such beautiful romance scenes in the way that Cassie does that are just so intoxicating to read without being too intense and in your face. It's just beautiful. Like, I don't want to read 10-page sex scenes, and Cassie just knows how to write romance, and I love her for it. And this whispering room scene is like no exception to that. It was just so, it was great to read. I just loved it, and it made me so angry when this all starts to fall apart. James has some things going on. He's a problematic Herondale child. I mean, we get one of them in every single series. It's getting annoying and it's getting on my last nerves, but at the same time, I'm gonna keep reading it because we all love the Herondales. We love all the problematic Herondale men. We keep eating it off, and no matter how annoying it gets, that every single time there's roadblocks in their way, there's issues, there's complications, we will eat it up, we will read it, because it's Cassie Clare. We all know it's coming, and we just accept it. But Grace Blackthorne is messing with him, getting inside his head with her like siren-esque powers and manipulating him. And so he thinks he's in love with Grace. They break it off. He starts to end up with Cordelia, and then Grace manipulates him again, and now he's under her power, and he tells Cordelia that he doesn't love her. He still proposes to her anyway, and so now they're going to get married for this year to be able to basically protect both of their reputations, because Cordelia basically says that she was with James for the entire night, which is super scandalous, and she does that to protect him from being found out in burning down Blackthorne Manor at the end of this series. And so now both of their reputations are on the line. So they decide to get married together, except the idea is that it's gonna last for a year, it's gonna be some fun, and then they'll get divorced. I know that's not gonna happen. Something is gonna blow up in this year that is absolutely going to just change things. Like, a year is a very long time, Magnus says that, and it's absolutely an indication that things are not going to go as planned and that all shit's gonna go to hell. From the family tree that is given to us on the back of Clockwork Princess, we find out that Cordelia and James get married and have a son named Owen Herondale. But again, as Cassie said, we don't know how true that is. I don't know how I'm feeling about all of this. I feel like there's too much going on that is just too problematic, that even though I know I'm supposed to ship Cordelia and James, I don't. There's a part of me that's just not feeling it. Like, I know they love each other. I know they do. I know there's just all these roadblocks in the way that are making it difficult, but I don't ship them together. But you wanna know who I do ship? Cordelia and Matthew. I see it happening. I really do. There's a part of me that's like, you wouldn't expect Matthew to come in and be the one that she ends up with. But he shows up and he wins her heart because he loves her and he deserves it because he's suffering and he doesn't deserve to suffer. And I just, especially when you find out about everything Matthew went through in Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy and in Ghosts of the Shadow Market and all the pain that he's putting himself through as a result. He deserves better, and it's frustrating for him because he sees that James is stringing along Cordelia and is not treating her the way that a man should, and he just has to sit there and watch it. And he keeps telling James, do not be with Grace, I do not trust her, I do not like her, but of course, like James doesn't listen, and Matthew is being heartbroken as a result. I think there's gonna be some big blow up. Things are going to go down. It is going to be insane, and I am very interested to see how this all unfolds. But personally for me, I'm not shipping Cordelia and James, and I feel like a large part of that is because I feel like you're supposed to. Like, the idea is that they end up together, they have a child. Like, that's what we're told, right? You want to ship that, you want to believe that, but there's a part of me that knows Cassie Clare, and I just, no. Like, if they end up together, I'll be fine, and it'll probably be really cute once all these roadblocks get knocked down. But as for right now, I'm not feeling it. Like, I want Cordelia to be happy, and I don't want her to be stringed along by James. So I would love for her and Matthew to be together, and for Matthew to treat her nicely, because it seems like what we find out is that Matthew likes Cordelia, but it's never like come right out and said, but we definitely get implications of it, especially when Matthew and Magnus have that conversation at the end of the book. But Lucy is gonna say something at some point, because there's the implication that Matthew likes Lucy, but I don't think that's necessarily true, and that's what James thinks. So there's a lot of mess going on. I don't really know how clear things are, but if Cordelia and Matthew do end up together, I would ship it. Then we have Lucy and Jesse. Lucy, being one of Tessa's children, has inherited an ability to be able to not only communicate with ghosts, but to be able to command them. And she ends up finding out about this ability from Jesse Blackthorne, who is the dead child of Tatiana Blackthorne. They start to communicate and start to fall in love. There's attraction there. Jesse gives up his final breath in order to save James because he loves Lucy. According to the family tree, they end up together and get married. I don't know if they have any children. They may have a child. In fact, I think I looked this up, and that their child is Andrew Blackthorne, who is Julian's father. So if that's the case, that's some real big implications. My thought is that by middle of book 2, Jesse is going to be resurrected and brought back from the dead. Because I think we're going to have to see enough time of Lucy and Jesse together as both living, breathing human beings before they get married and end up together and have a child. But who the hell knows? But it just bothers me because if I look at the way this family tree is unfolded, like, some of these lineages are extremely important because they lead back to current characters. So if things don't happen the way that we think they do, it will completely change the way that we look at characters and their origins. And it's just bothering me to no end because there's no, like, there's no answers, there's no clues. I'm left with nothing to work with, and it's infuriating. Okay, moving on, we have even more of an effed up love triangle-esque mess going on with Alastair, Thomas, and Charles. I don't see any hope in sight for any of these characters because the way that everything unfolded was just absolutely atrocious. We have Alastair, who is a bully. He basically tells Matthew in a short story in Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy that he and Thomas could be related because he essentially insults Henry for being handicapped and in a wheelchair and Sophie for being disfigured and says that they're not lovable. So he sort of makes some implications of both of their partners having an affair with each other, which is terrible and so mean. But what you end up finding out about Alastair is that he absolutely regrets saying that, and that a lot of his actions were like of the mentality kill or be killed. So he decided to bully rather than be bullied because he was isolated, he moved around a lot, didn't have a lot of friends, and so when he came to school, he didn't want to get picked on, so he picked on other people instead. And I don't think he liked it. I think he hated it, but he felt that it was necessary and it's what he needed to do. So we're starting to see him come around to this point of remorse where he regrets his actions and potentially sees a friendship and a family that he could find. Doesn't really matter because Matthew, in his drunken state, ends up mentioning it at the end of the novel during Cordelia and James's wedding party celebration. Thomas hears it, gets really upset, leaves. There was potentially something between Alastair and Thomas. They were together in Paris. They had this really romantic moment where they were just walking around and being in each other's presence, and it seemed like there could be something there between them. And then we end up finding out that Alastair and Charles are together, but Charles is a terrible human being and is essentially much more concerned with his political status. He wants to be consul, he may want to be inquisitor. Basically, he just wants a position of power in the Shadowhunter government. He's trying to get into all these arranged marriages in order to try to be with Alastair, but Alastair eventually realizes, like, you just want your political power, like, you do not care about me and my feelings and how I am being affected by your choices, and I'm not about to put up with it anymore, so goodbye. They break it off. So now all three of them have nobody. Well, Charles is in an arranged marriage with Grace Blackthorne, but that's all entirely political because Grace essentially wanted to be rid of Tatiana Blackthorne and is making whatever political moves she needs to make to be able to have freedom and not be with Tatiana anymore. So on that note, let's talk about Grace Blackthorne because I hate her. I don't know who I hate more. I don't know if I hate Zara Dearborn more or if I hate Grace Blackthorne more. I hate them both. And they seem like they're on the same level to me, you know? Like there's a part of me that is ultimately suspecting that like Tatiana starts out as one of the villains in the series, but Grace Blackthorne ends up sort of being the one that becomes the ultimate like enemy in this series. Because I feel like Tatiana's gonna get burned out really quickly and we'll be disposed of her soon. Like I don't like her, but I don't think she's gonna be our big issue in this series. I just don't. The two of them, I don't know what's going on, especially with Grace, because there's a part of me that just is curious as to whether Grace's motivations are just that of Tatiana's and she's just Tatiana's puppet, or if she has her own motivations of wanting to be free from Tatiana and is ultimately going to backstab Tatiana and do whatever the hell she needs to do to be able to get what she wants, because she seems like a very cold and unfeeling person. So I don't know what's going on with Grace Blackthorne. There's this one moment in the book that I want to talk about because I think it's absolutely going to be relevant come book 2. She kisses Matthew. Matthew basically confronts Grace and is like, why did you break it off with James? He's gonna be heartbroken. How dare you? I don't trust you, and is not happy with her at all. Grace essentially uses whatever siren-esque powers she has to lure Matthew in, get Matthew to kiss her, and then tells Matthew, you try to get in the way of my plans, I will tell James and Charles that you kissed me and all shit will go to hell. So don't mess with me. And it's so manipulative. She does the same thing to James. She's basically like, I can't be with Tatiana anymore. You have to leave your entire life behind, all your family, your status as a Shadowhunter, marry me as a mundane, be stripped of your runes, and run away with me. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. And then she manipulates him as like any other guy would do that for me. And it's just, oh, it's so rude and calculating. And I just, I hate her. I hate her. I hate her. I hate her. I hate her so much. I can't stand her. And it's just terrible because I don't know what her endgame is. She has the bracelet, which is the chain of iron, which is the title for book 2, that essentially leaves Matthew in a vulnerable state. And that is like a lot of questions. Like my hope is that, yeah, Cortana is used to be able to chop that bracelet right off of him and that we just destroy that thing once we find out the influence that it's having over James and all the other characters pick things up and start to learn things that we know, because hell no, that bracelet is bad news. And Chain of Gold, on the other hand, just to quickly talk about this, is the necklace Jesse was wearing that had his last breath in it that he gave to James. So that's the title explanation here. It's also inspired by Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, which I've actually read and really enjoyed, so that was fun to find out. Okay, other things about Grace Blackthorne, getting back on track. According to the family tree, her and Christopher end up together, which baffles me to no end because Christopher is the one character that is not involved in all this hot love triangle mess, and I don't want him involved in this mess. I don't. He's a nice, sweet boy who does science, who's like Henry, who is just good and pure, and I don't want him with Grace Blackthorne. Like, how the hell does that happen? I don't see any future in which that happens. Like, how does he get roped into all of this? Like, it's genuinely mind-boggling to me because I just don't know how that could happen because he's just such a good character and seems so innocent. Like, why would he ever have any interest in being with her? Why? That is bothering me to no end because I want him as far away from her as possible because he's the one character that I don't have to deal with right now when it comes to this. But if they do somehow end up together, I'm so curious as to how that unfolds. I'm so curious as to how everything unfolds because right now I have no answers and everything is a mess and everybody is mad at everybody and everybody can end up with anybody and there's like characters that are all like everyone's intertwined with each other and has relationships with somebody. It's the most confusing thing ever, but it's so damn interesting because you just don't know what to expect. It's great, it's fun, it's thrilling, it's exciting, but it's infuriating. So we gotta talk about Tatiana Blackthorne because the thing that bothers me the most about Tatiana is not Tatiana herself, but how the Clave deals with her. I hate the Clave. We should make that clear. The Clave always manages to put themselves in situations where they think, oh, we're doing what's best, and it always ends up screwing them over in the long run. They just never make smart decisions. Ever. And I think we're finally gonna start to get to see that fixed in the Wicked Powers, which is interesting. So we'll see how that goes. As for right now, not a fan of the Clave. Never really have been. They're all a hot mess. Tatiana. She's distraught. She's going through something. She's very upset at the Herondales, at the Lightwoods, at the Carestairs, because all of them she associates with being responsible for the death of her father and her husband, I believe, relating back to Benedict Lightwood turning into a giant worm because of demon pox and being a gross and disgusting human being and dying as a result. She's not happy about the way the events transpired, so she has a vendetta out for all of them and just does not like them. Everyone else sort of looks at her and thinks, oh, she's grieving, she's going through loss, she's lost a son and a husband and a father, like, she's just heartbroken, you know, what can you do? And they sort of just feel a little bit of, like, sympathy for her and just sort of like, you know, like, what can you do? It's typical of most people to act that way because, of course, she poses a little bit of a threat. She's gonna get the ball rolling for bigger people to come in and make things worse for us, which is great. We find out that there's demons in her home, in the greenhouse, and that she could potentially be doing some shady things. I don't know if she's physically abusing Grace Blackthorne because there's this weird moment where Cordelia is at their house and knocks on the door to create a distraction for Lucy to go and talk to Jesse, and she grabs at Grace, like barely touches her, and Grace yelps. So I'm like, does that have something to do with Cortana and Cortana's abilities? Does that have something to do with Grace being like hurt by Tatiana and being like injured? I don't know. Like there's something weird that happened there that I feel like we need to get back to because Cassie made it very clear that she recoiled. So I don't know. I need answers as to what the hell is going on there. Tatiana's not a great person as of right now. What we find out is that in Blackthorne Manor, there's apparently a whole bunch of dark magic. And so James burns it down. The Clave finds evidence of that dark magic in Blackthorne Manor. And they decide, okay, you were found with dark magic, but you're clearly grieving, you're in distress, so we're going to send you to the Adamant Citadel, and you're gonna be locked away forever, and that's your punishment. When we take a step back to really think about this and what this means and what the implications are, what we are finding out is that we are sending a character that has associations with dark magic to make Shadowhunter weapons. That is literally like the dumbest thing ever. Like, why would you do that? Why is that smart? Like, lock her away. Keep her, like, in the Silent City. Put her in prison. I don't know. Just don't let her near your weapons. Because guess what? Now she's gonna partner with Belial and they're gonna take the Shadowhunters down from inside and she's gonna F up their weapons. The Adamant Citadel, who knows what the hell will happen to it. It's gonna be a scary time. The thing is, I feel like we would know if there was a break-in that happened at the Adamant Citadel once before, and I wonder if Cassie referenced it at all in the Mortal Instruments series because that's really the only series where we get to see inside the Adamant Citadel, and there's a battle that obviously happens there that's really game-changing for Jem. I feel like we should know what's coming, or it should be foreshadowed somewhere. So I'm gonna have to do some digging and see what I find out. I feel like whatever's happened at the Adamant Citadel, it's not going to be good. I blame the Clave because they did this to themselves. You don't put the evil person that works with dark magic, you don't give them the ability to make your angelic weapons. Like, not smart. Not smart. So we can also talk about Belial. So he is a prince of hell. He is Tessa's father and James and Lucy's grandfather. So one of the things we found about James in this series is that he's able to go into the Shadow Realm. And so Belial is dragging him into the Shadow Realm throughout this series. James essentially realizes that if he wants to stop all of his friends from being poisoned and dying as a result of these demon attacks that are taking place in the sunlight, he has to go in, sacrifice himself. Belial wants to possess him. Essentially together, James and Cordelia end up taking down Belial. Cordelia uses Cortana to stab Belial. He is injured. They think that he's disappeared, that he's weak and doesn't have any power. James is able to manipulate the realm and take it down. So it looks like everything's fine. But apparently Belial still has some ties to Earth because of Tatiana. He may be in a weak state, but he's still a threat. That's unfortunate, but of course, like, what can you expect in the Cassie Clare series? We're not getting rid of our main villain that quickly. Like, we're just not. I don't really know what his end game is as of this point. Like, I'm curious as to why it is that he wants to possess James. Like, I don't know what that's about. I'm scared for James. I don't want any of my Herondale men to suffer anymore, but it seems like that's what's going to happen. So I'm just frustrated, not a fan of what's gonna happen. Yeah, we shall see. Alright, let's talk about Cortana. Oh my goodness, Cortana. So, Cortana is like Mjolnir, basically, is the discovery that we find out in this series, because Cordelia is basically able to summon Cortana to her, I think 2-3 times in this book, where she just basically just commands it to her and it comes to her, like Thor with Mjolnir, which I think is so dope, and I love that. That's one of Cortana's powers. We also find out that Cortana can slice through anything, which is something that we already know, but we see her slice through a demon realm, and that's pretty cool. I think this is just a small taste of Cortana's powers and the things that it can do, but I'm psyched to see more of Cortana's abilities because I think Cortana's going to be a game changer in the series in a lot of ways. And the last thing, we have Elias and baby Carstairs. So we find out that Elias is a drunkard, which I feel like is something that was brought up at some point either in the Infernal Devices or maybe in one of the novella bind-ups. I don't remember which one. I just felt like when we got that reveal that it felt like this was knowledge that I had before. He's not a great guy. Essentially, Alastair and Cordelia's mother were covering for Elias so that Cordelia didn't have to go through the pain of knowing that her father was a drunkard. So when he ends up getting in trouble and ends up being arrested by the Clave, she's sort of curious as to what happened. She wants her father to be tried by the Moiled Sword, but that can't happen because he doesn't remember any of the events that unfolded because he was drunk. When she finds that out, she's disappointed, but after all the events that transpired in the series, apparently he's going to be released, so I'm assuming we're going to be seeing him in books 2 and 3, and that'll be very interesting to see how that changes the family dynamic for the Carstairs. We also have a baby that's being born, which like now we have 2 babies that are gonna be in Shadowwinter Chronicles series. We have Tessa and Jem's baby, and now we're gonna have this baby Carstairs, who is again not on the family tree, so who knows what the hell happens to this child or who it is. Like I'm so curious because one of the Carstairs lines leads to Emma and Emma's parents, and apparently it's Alastair's line, but who knows? Lots of things that are happening here. But my biggest thing with this baby is that I don't think that it's Elias's. Like, there's a part of me that doesn't believe that, especially if Elias was a drunkard. I don't see why Cordelia's mother would have a child with that man. So I'm assuming she had an affair. I think we have a significant amount more to find out about Cordelia's mother on that note too, because her name is changed on the family tree. So her name in the book is different from her name on the family tree, which is what's really interesting to me. I don't see why Cassie would retcon a name of a character. I just think that's not something that she would do. So I think we have to get answers there pertaining to as to why names are different and where the discrepancy there is, but it's bothering me because it just, like, there shouldn't be that much of a discrepancy, and I feel like there's gonna be some answer there, explanation there as to why that is, because we didn't address it in this first book. But I think with this baby coming, there will have to be some sort of answers, and I'm very curious to find out what that is. Other things, all the fight scenes in this book were dope. The fight scene on the bridge with the Manticore demon was great. We get lots of different fight scenes with Manticore demons that are great. The one in the park is great. They're all so well written and so action-packed and intense. You have so many things going on. It was just so much fun to get to read all of those. We got a lot of effed up stuff going on with family trees. It's great. This book was so much fun to read. It broke me because I just like don't know what to expect for the series going forward. I have like no theories or predictions, although I'm gonna try to come up with some as I go back and start to read some of the novellas that follow the characters in this book to be able to see if I can formulate some thoughts on what things may or may not happen. I think that about wraps up my review of Chain of Gold. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any thoughts or opinions on Chain of Gold, leave them in the comments down below. My name is Gabby. If you want to follow me on social media, all of my links are down below in the description. If you want new videos from me, subscribe, hit the button, hit the bell button if you want to be notified for when I post new videos. I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time in a new one. Goodbye!